We all know the Second World War was full of secrets. But beyond the battlefield tactics and spy games, some stories are so strange, so far out, they were ordered to be completely erased from the public record. This is one of those stories. It involves two of the most powerful men on the planet, a terrified Royal Air Force pilot and a mysterious craft that was considered so sensitive it was allegedly locked away for half a century. World War II was an explosion of new technology. Jet engines, ballistic missiles, the atomic bomb, they all came out of that intense pressure cooker of conflict. In the skies over Europe, Allied pilots were pushing their planes to the breaking point. They knew every enemy aircraft by sight, from the Messerschmitt Bf 109 to the Focke-Wulf 190. But starting in 1944, pilots started reporting things that weren't in any recognition manual. They nicknamed them Foo Fighters, weird glowing orbs of light that would fly alongside their planes, pulling off maneuvers that seemed flat out impossible. These sightings were unnerving, but they were usually quick, and often brushed off as just combat fatigue or maybe some weird weather. But one encounter, late in the war, was different. This wasn't some fleeting ball of light in the middle of the night. This was a daylight sighting of a solid, metallic object. And the report didn't just end up on some debriefer's desk. It allegedly went all the way to the top, to Prime Minister Winston Churchill and the Supreme Allied Commander, General Dwight D. Eisenhower. What they were told, and the decision they supposedly made, kicked off a mystery that people are still arguing about today. The story kicks off with an RAF reconnaissance plane heading home after a mission over occupied Europe. The pilot, a seasoned pro, was flying over the English coastline, probably near Kent, getting ready to land. The war was winding down, but the skies were still far from safe. Suddenly, the pilot and his crew realized they weren't alone. A metallic, disc-shaped object had just appeared off their wing. It wasn't an enemy fighter. It didn't try to attack them. It did something way more unsettling. It perfectly matched their speed and course, just hanging there in the air beside them, completely silent. These were guys who had seen it all, but they'd never seen anything like this. They described it as a seamless, polished metal craft, with no visible signs of how it was flying. No engines, no exhaust, nothing to explain how it was just effortlessly parked next to their plane. The crew even managed to snap a few photos of the strange object. After a few minutes of pacing the RAF plane, it suddenly shot off at an unbelievable speed and was gone. The pilot was shaken. He reported it the second he landed. The report, especially with the pictures, was so out there that it skipped the usual chain of command. It got bumped up and up until it landed on Winston Churchill's desk. The witness was too credible and the evidence too weird to just ignore. With the world at war, any unexplained craft in the sky was a massive deal. Was it some new secret weapon from the enemy? A piece of tech so advanced it could turn the tide of the war? Those were the questions facing the Allied leaders. The report of this metallic UFO supposedly triggered a top-secret meeting between Prime Minister Winston Churchill and General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the two men running the Allied war effort. They brought in their scientific advisors and military experts to look at the pilot's testimony and the photos. The experts were completely baffled. Weapons specialists at the meeting said the object couldn't be any known missile or aircraft, stating its abilities were totally beyond any imagined capabilities of the time. It wasn't just how fast it was the silent, hovering flight that just didn't make sense with 1940s technology. According to an account that didn't come out for decades, neither Churchill nor Eisenhower had a clue what it could be. As they talked it over, someone in the room brought up the chilling idea that maybe the craft wasn't from Earth. It was at this moment, staring down a mystery his best people couldn't solve, that Churchill reportedly made a huge call. He declared that the incident had to be classified for at least 50 years. His reasons, they say, showed just how anxious the times were. First, he was worried the news would cause mass panic. Cities were still recovering from the Blitz, and the war had taken a huge psychological toll. The idea of some unknown, unstoppable craft flying around could have shattered public morale. Second, and this is maybe the most telling part, Churchill was allegedly afraid that it would destroy one's belief in the church and shake the very foundations of society. So the order was given: seal the report, deny it ever happened, and let a future prime minister deal with it in half a century. This supposed cover-up wasn't a one-off thing when it came to wartime UFOs. Throughout the war, Allied forces kept running into things that left them scratching their heads. The Foo Fighter sightings got more and more common as the war went on. Pilots in both Europe and the Pacific reported being tailed by these strange lights, sometimes described as red, orange, or green glowing orbs. They'd pop up out of nowhere, follow a plane, and then just vanish. They were never hostile, but they definitely freaked out pilots who were already on edge. The military looked into it, thinking it might be a new German secret weapon, but they never came up with a good answer. And then there was the famous incident right on American soil. In the early morning hours of February 25, 1942, just a few months after Pearl Harbor, Los Angeles was thrown into chaos. Air raid sirens screamed as radar picked up unknown targets off the coast. For over an hour, the 37th Coast Artillery Brigade fired more than 1,400 anti-aircraft shells into the sky at what they thought were enemy planes. Searchlights crisscrossed the darkness, and people on the ground swore they saw aircraft. But when the sun came up, there wasn't a single piece of a downed enemy plane. The Secretary of the Navy, Frank Knox, first called it a false alarm caused by war nerves. The Battle of Los Angeles, as it came to be known, led to 5 civilian deaths from car crashes and heart attacks during the panic. To this day, nobody can quite agree on what happened, with theories ranging from weather balloons to an actual unidentified craft. What makes the Churchill-Eisenhower story stand out is that alleged direct order to cover it up for social and religious reasons. The Battle of Los Angeles was publicly explained away as a mistake, and Foo Fighters were officially investigated as possible enemy tech. But the sighting off the English coast? That was apparently so serious that it needed to be wiped from the history books for decades. The story of this classified sighting only came out in 1999. It happened when the grandson of one of Churchill's bodyguards wrote to the Ministry of Defense to ask about it. His grandfather had apparently been at that high-level meeting and told his family the story. This one letter, tucked away in thousands of pages of declassified UFO files released by the UK's National Archives, peeled back a corner on one of the war's biggest mysteries. It really makes you wonder, if this one story was buried, what else is still hidden in the archives? The truth is often stranger than fiction, and sometimes it's under lock and key for a very, very long time. What do you think? Was this an alien ship or some top-secret human technology? Let us know in the comments. And if you think these hidden stories are as fascinating as we do, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. The incident over the English coast is still one of the most fascinating and argued over UFO cases of the 20th century. Unlike the fuzzy lights of the Foo Fighters, this was a report of a solid, metallic, and advanced craft seen by trained military observers. The alleged involvement of Churchill and Eisenhower, and that supposed 50-year gag order, takes it from just another sighting to a potential conspiracy at the very top. Now, the Ministry of Defense says it has no official record of any such meeting or order, but they also admit that most UFO files from before 1967 were destroyed. So we're left with this incredible story based on a second-hand account from a man who said he was there. Was it a misunderstanding? A family legend that got bigger over time? Or was it the truth? A moment when world leaders came face to face with something so shocking they thought we couldn't handle it. We'll probably never know for sure. But it's a powerful reminder that even in a war as well documented as World War II, there are still secrets out there, waiting in the shadows. The question isn't just what that RAF pilot saw, but what else is still locked away, deemed too sensitive for us to see. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay informed and stay curious.